Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on what part of the world you're joining us from, and welcome to EXM Live, the Email Automation Experience. My name is Jake Damari, and I am the Director of Marketing at Connective DX. And today I am very pleased to introduce our Sitecore Practice Director and longtime Sitecore MVP, Pete Navarra, who will give us a webinar version of his incredibly popular talk from the 2018 Sitecore Symposium on leveraging Sitecore Email Experience Manager. Before I turn it over to Pete, I'd like to mention a few things. Attendees, you are in listen-only mode, but we are quite interested in your questions, so please submit them anytime through the anytime through the GoToWebinar Q&A interface, and we'll take a couple of breaks to answer them. Questions can also be asked via the chat function if you like. And finally, today's session is being recorded, and all of you will receive a follow-up email with a link to the recording on YouTube. So once again, welcome and thank you for attending. And with that said, I'd like to turn it over to Pete Navarra.
Hey, thanks, Jake, for the introduction. It's a pleasure to be here. I'd also like to thank everyone that has joined in the webinar or watching the recorded version. We have a great group of folks watching, and while I can't read your facial expressions, and I hope that I can at least wow you with some awesome Sitecore magic. Over the past year, I have been on a crusade to change people's opinions of Email Experience Manager and to convey that EXM is a viable product in the marketplace, worthy of competing against the toughest competition. The question that I had to answer was, how do I convey that EXM is a great product through a staged presentation and a slideshow? I just can't get up there and say, rah, rah, go EXM, you should use it. I'll get booed off the stage, or worse, deepen the poor reputation that EXM has had in the past. Now, the only way that I could convey my passion for this product was to demonstrate it, and not just through a recorded video. No, I needed you guys, the audience, to participate in an experience that only Sitecore and Email Experience Manager can provide. Born of that idea was EXM Live. Now, I put this idea into practice when I did my first EXM Live demonstration in Berlin, SUGCON EU. Everyone told me, no, don't do a live demo. Are you nuts? I guess I was, but it turned out to be an amazing experience, and the demo gods were favorable. So I took it on the road, and over the past 8 months, I've been to 7 different user groups across the US and Canada, giving versions of my EXM Live presentation to mostly technical and developer-oriented audiences. Then I was given the great honor of presenting at the Sitecore Symposium in Orlando this past October. I was inspired so much by the magical world of Disney that I had to build a theme around my EXM Live demonstration. One of my objectives out of finishing this year was to provide a space for people to learn and experience EXM for themselves without having to attend presentations specifically. And I came up with this idea for creating a knowledge center for EXM. You could call it a school for email experience. Any Potter fans out there? Born of that thought, I created Corewarts, the School of Dispatch Wizardry and Email Witchcraft, which is the basis for this demonstration and the tool that you, the audience, is going to use to take part in my silly little demonstration. So with that, welcome to Corewarts, your magical, please grab your magic wands, AKA your phones, your laptops, or even that browser on the other monitor that you've been watching Twitter on for the last 5 minutes. Will gain you access to corewarts.com. Once the spell is complete, you'll be presented with a short Sitecore form asking for your name and email address. Go ahead and fill out the form. During the rest of this presentation, you'll be presented with a series of email experiences based on your interactions with the website as well as your email. Feel free to pay more attention to your email than to me if you'd like. Oh, and feel free to tweet out this webinar and your experiences with it by using the hashtag EXMLive. Jake is also going to be taking questions from the audience at the end, and we'll have a short Q&A. Now, I'm bound by international laws, namely GDPR or the state of California, to warn you that during the next 30 minutes, I will be marketing to you, collecting information, and personalizing an online experience for you as I talk. If you do not consent, feel free to just watch along anyways. I'm sure you'll be enticed to use it later. So what's really happening behind the scenes right now? Well, hopefully you guys are using the website Corewarts.com is running on, the Corewarts.com is running on the Sitecore Experience platform and deployed in an Azure PaaS environment. I'm combining the distribution of the distribution power of EXM by sending transactional and marketing campaign specific emails with the functionality of gathering information from Sitecore forms and brought to life by the new Sitecore marketing automation engine. After completing the Sitecore form from Corewarts, you'll be receiving an email detailing your successful enrollment to the university. A few emails later, you'll be engaged in the marketing strategy of learning about EXM. In doing so, you're triggering goals, performing page clicks, and building out a contact profile that we can see in the experience profile. Next, using marketing automation, we're putting you into a marketing funnel that will automate additional personalized emails received during this panel. And last but not least, most important of all, is this is using Sitecore's XConnect and XDB to register these interactions to show analytics that you can see in near real time using the Email Experience Manager or Sitecore Analytics, which completes our Corewarts orientation. So as you're using the website, corewarts.com, please listen. Otherwise, let's move along to our first lesson. So how did we get here? The evolution of Email Experience Manager has been occurring for the past several years. This is combined with the overall evolution of Sitecore, which is responsible for the colorful and oftentimes difficult successes and failures of EXM. And let's be honest here, there have been some failures over the past years. Let's take a quick walk down memory lane. EXM was originally launched as Email Campaign Manager back in July of 2011. It had a lot of issues associated with it and didn't gain a lot of traction until about 2013 when Sitecore released the newer version of Email Campaign Manager 2.0. And about a year later, they made some updates and ECM 2.1 came out to try and fix as many bugs as possible. But it had a really big drawback. It wasn't completely integrated into the product, and thus the integration with Sitecore was minimal, just enough to get content out, but not much more. When Sitecore reinvented itself and its marketing capabilities in 2014, the introduction of Sitecore 8, it also reinvented Email Campaign Manager, and for the first time, we have Email Experience Manager, which they continued the numbering, 3.0. EXM 3.0 was bug-ridden. You could tell it was, potentially a rush job, and the other big drawback was that it was still a module to Sitecore that was not part of the platform, and thus required a large degree of configuration and implementation. In 2015, not even a year later, Sitecore released EXM 3.2, which fixed a lot of bugs, but it wasn't quite right. A short 7 months later, Sitecore released version EXM 3.3, specifically for version Sitecore 8.1, Update 3. And again, more bug fixing, still a module, and lacking real integration with Sitecore. And that upgrade path, well, you lose analytics from 3.2. In 2016, something interesting occurred. Sitecore released Sitecore 8.2, which was a huge developer release fixing a number of architectural issues within Sitecore. In addition, EXM got a little bit of a lift too in the form of version 3.4. This version starts to unlock the mystery of EXM because of the number of list manager enhancements seen in the platform. Finally, rounding out our Sitecore 8 history, Sitecore released EXM 3.5, specifically for Sitecore 8.2 Update 5. Now, when we look across these versions, what's not really noted here is the relationship between EXM and the very specific versions of Sitecore. Every time Sitecore released an update to its 8.2 product, well, EXM had to be upgraded. And thus, multiple versions of EXM between 3.4 and 3.5 had specific updates that were required. All of this was because Sitecore EXM was still a module. So things change, which brings us to today, Sitecore 9. In Sitecore 9, specifically the 9.0 Update 1 and on, Sitecore has released a brand new Email Experience Manager, almost entirely rewritten, and for the first time ever, completely integrated in the main product line. Starting with Sitecore 9.01 Update 1 and beyond, Email Experience Manager is no longer a module. It is native to Sitecore. We see the introduction of Rebus Messaging Service implementation, which is a huge step for Sitecore architecturally. We also were introduced to the marketing automation engine. This replaced the old automation plans of the past. And it's pretty awesome, I have to say. We also saw the creation of Sitecore Forms, which is really I would say the sibling or the child of the replacement for Web Forms for marketers. And we also have the EXM submit action. And improvements to the capabilities of Azure PaaS, which I'm happy to tell you, in my opinion, this is the first version of Sitecore that is 100% production ready for Azure PaaS. So this brings us to today's demo. I hope everyone has had an opportunity to sign up at Corewarts.com. Now, before we get too far, I just need to apologize. I'm not a front-end developer, and my design skills are generally limited to stick figures and poorly made 3D boxes on scratch paper. So I have to give a big shout out to the team here at Connective DX for helping me make this demo look fantastic. When you arrived at Corewarts.com, you probably noticed that you are now enrolling into the Corewarts School of Email Wizardry and Corewarts School of Dispatch Wizardry and Email Witchcraft. This is a magical school where you will learn all about Sitecore's EXM as well as the dark magic that is contained within. Corewarts focuses on 3 magical schools of Sitecore. The first one being Sitecore Forms. The second school being Marketing Automation. And most importantly, Sitecore Email Experience Manager. During your participation in Corewarts, you were presented first with the Sitecore form. This form sets up the starting point for us collecting information about your visit. We also identify the user so that we know who you are on the next visit. Next, if you were paying attention to your email, you received an enrollment email with important information about Corewarts. This email and subsequent emails are all personalized for the user. Continued participation will reveal an additional email magically appearing moments later. Which brings us to the magical sorting email. That second email that you're going to receive is I call the magical sorting email. This email, when viewed, will read your inner thoughts and determine which house of Corewarts you will spend time in. This will segment the audience into 4 houses, and it's important to note that this segmentation is being managed by Sitecore's List Manager. The 4 houses of Corewarts are Lion War, Beetle Scale, Panda Paw, which is my personal favorite, and lastly, Rhino Horn. From there, your education at Corewarts is handled via automation, and you'll be sent on a journey, receiving several emails over the next 20 to 30 minutes. The series of emails that you'll receive provide you a starting point for getting started with EXM as both a developer and a marketer. There's also a second automation plan in place that is providing automation based on the actions that you're taking across multiple emails. So with that, it is time to review the results of the magical sorting email. At this point, I'm going to be moving away from the PowerPoint slides and on my laptop where I will spend the next 10 to 15 minutes going over the analytics and the results of the live demo. I'm going to be reviewing the marketing automation reporting as well as the EXM email reports in a live setting. And at the end, we're going to be dispatching a live email campaign to all of you that are participating. So here we have Sitecore. And so here we have Sitecore. We have the Sitecore Experience Platform. And the first thing I want to show you is the Forms Designer. Now, clicking into Sitecore Forms, you'll see that we actually created a form from Sitecore Forms that is collecting your first name, your last name, your email address, and your role. The magic sauce in this is the submit button. The submit button is actually firing a series of what we call submit actions. One of them is we're identifying a contact. Now I have to give you the disclaimer that identify contact is not an out-of-the-box submit action. It is something that I've added into this demo. It is only one of 2 things that I've done that is custom. Everything else you're seeing is out-of-the-box Sitecore. Next, after I identify the contact, I'm triggering a goal. And that goal is just me telling Sitecore that you have enrolled into Corewarts. I'm now sending you the email campaign message that says, hey, your enrollment is successful. I'm saving your data and I'm redirecting you to the home page. You might have experienced that the home page actually changes based on your enrollment. All of this is using Sitecore's personalization rules. From there, what's happening is behind the scenes, you're getting segmented by list manager. And list manager is actually going through and creating a list of participants within the Corewarts enrollment list. And I can tell you right now that 15 of you are currently enrolled on the website. If I click into the Corewarts enrollment list through list manager, I can actually look at this contact list and see who all is in here. And you can see we have all these people. So clicking back, we're going to, now that we have our list, and now that we've collected our form, well, we need automation to happen. So marketing automation is where we have our two plans. Now, I've created a new marketing automation plan specifically for this webinar to kind of give a kind of a clean slate of stats. That's why you see 3 automation plans in here, but one of them is inactive. The Corewarts EXM Live automation demo was the one I did for Sitecore Symposium, and now you are in the webinar one. So I'm going to click on the webinar automation demo, and this is really a workflow. I mean, that's all automation is. It's start here, do something, go on, go forth. So what's really happening is that once you enroll successfully, I'm adding you to the contact list, which you just saw. I'm sending you a second email saying, hey, maybe it's time for you to get sorted. I'm sending you the magical sorting email through marketing automation. I'm then sorting you to a house. Now, what's happening is this is a listener, and it's waiting for you to actually do something with that email. Once you do, I identify you as a marketer, as a developer, or as a Sitecore MVP, and I'm putting you through a series of emails that are going to be dispatched to you over the course of the next 20 minutes. The other plan that I have on here is what I call the you clicked on a hat email. It's a automation example of actually using marketing automation to detect what you're doing in your emails. And you can see here that the start of this is actually using the rules engine, where I say, okay, enter people into this funnel where the contact open email, where the contact has opened the Corewarts enrollment success message. And if they've opened the first message and then clicked on the second message, then I'm going to send them a third message, send you a third message saying, hey, you clicked on a hat. And I'm going to give you this example automation plan. So emails are happening, stuff is occurring, marketing automation is driving. Let's see what's really happening with the email experience manager now. Give it just a second. Okay, we're going to click on automated. Try to get to. There we go. All right. All right, so we're going to click on the enrollment success message. This is the message that the first message everybody got, and we're going to see that we have some campaign stats coming in here. Now, this will be coupled with all the other emails that I've sent through the various other presentations and symposiums and whatnot. So you're going to see some additional information here. I am trying to. My browser is messing up here for some reason. One second here. For some reason, it's my browser is not showing me what I want to see. All right, well, while that screen loads, the other thing I wanted to show you was actually the reporting coming out of EXM, or out of marketing automation. All right. For some reason, my computer is running slow for right now, and I'm trying to understand why, but we're going to go with this. So if I click on Report View here, Report View is actually going to show you all the different funnels that are occurring. And you're going to see that right now I have 16 people that have gone through and entered through the marketing campaign. I have 2 people that I'm still waiting to click on the email, to click on the hat. So David and JD, feel free to do that. And this gives you an example of how you can actually see the marketing automation in live, all the data that you need to see. And I can also click through and I can see, you know, there's 4 people. There's one person at this stage that's receiving the first email, and over the next few minutes you're going to see more. So this kind of gives you an idea of all the different people funneling through the system. So clicking back on report view, going back to here, I'm going to see if I can refresh now. Okay, clearly there's an issue. I'm going to do just a really quick troubleshooting just because I feel like there's either my Chrome browser is messing up or something. Oh, the demo gods are being fun today. All right, so the EXM dashboard is not, oh, here we go, finally. This is what I was trying to get up, was the Corewarts enrollment success message, where you can see all the stats coming in. You can also view the different technologies being used, the geographic locations. Sorry about that pause. I don't know why the screen took so long to come up. You can also see the recipient activity. Here we have everybody that's clicked on it today. You can see who's opened it, who's closed it. You can also see the value and engagement that's being occurring as part of this email, and you can see which contacts have actually created the most value. But you can also look at your landing page performance and say, hey, you know what, line war actually is the most clicked, has the most attention, and has the most unique clicks. And you can click through here and you can see why. This gives you kind of an understanding of trying to figure out, you know, why is line war the most clicked? And you could say, well, it's because it's the first one on the top list here, and maybe we can change this around to see if it causes anything different. That's where content testing and invariance within emails come into play. So now that we've gone through here, you go back to marketing automation, we can see that you know, the more emails are going through. And that's pretty much the extent of it. The one thing I'll show you is actually in the experience editor. You know, that hat email that you have where you clicked on it, it's actually taking you to a web page where I have optimization running. I have a content test running that's actually displaying the 4 different houses and the 4 different views of that page that people are going to see. And this is what I'm using to actually create the randomization of who goes in what house. So now that we have that, I can actually show you that there's 6 layers of personalization occurring on this item. We'll open that up. All right, and you can see that, you know, if you join Rhino Horn, there's personalization going on. If you join Beetle Scale, if you're enrolled but need to be sorted, and then if you happen upon this page and you haven't entered the field, then I actually show you the nice little magical sorting hat where I say, hey, you know what? There's no enrollment here. Why don't you go fill out the form? And so I'm using all of those features of Sitecore with marketing capabilities to really drive how we segment a user. That segmentation goes into List Manager, into the different lists, and we can actually see who our residents of each house are. And we also have our Corewarts enrollment list. So with that, now with all the emails that are getting sent out, we're going to send one more email. I'm actually going to create at least I'm going to try. My browser is not liking something here. There we go. Create regular email campaign. Might be my internet connection. I have no idea if I'm actually coming across very well or not. All right, so Corewarts email, and this is going to be a thank you dispatch email. We're using my branded Corewarts email template, and we're going to say create. Now, this branded template has lorem ipsum kind of default text just to kind of give it some flavor. I'm going to go through with the experience editor within EXM, and I'm actually going to edit that message to give it more of a personalized look. For recipients, we're going to actually choose the Corewarts enrollment list. So I'm going to drop this down. Again, this is being managed through List Manager. I'm going to do the Corewarts enrollment list. I see that there's 15 recipients in this list. Then we're going to click on the message. I'm going to give it a subject line. So, thank you for attending the EXM live webinar. I'm doing this live. Imagine just as a marketer, you want to put some thought, you might want to put some, feelings and, what you want to put into this message. But in a live setting, I'm doing this in real time. This is now we're going to edit the body in the experience editor. This is going to be experience that you're used to seeing, just like in the experience editor when you're editing pages of your site. I have different components in here, like I can change this. I can change the image out if I wanted to, and then I have my rich text box for the text that I'm actually going to put in here. Now I'm going to make this really, really simple. So we're going to edit the component text, which is just here in this nice little rich text box. We're actually going to take everything out here. I'm going to say, remember that personalization we were talking about? We call this token personalization, where these tokens will actually be replaced with values from the contact profile. So EXM Live, hi first name, thank you for attending today's webinar. I hope that it was exciting. Let me get rid of that. And then I'll say, sincerely, Headmaster Dumbledore. We're going to accept. We're going to save and close. And now we have our preview, body preview. We have our thank you. I'm going to actually put a little personalization even in the subject line. I'm going to say first name. Thank you for attending the EXM Live webinar. And I'm going to save. If I wanted to, I could review this email before dispatching it. I can actually send it to an email address, such as my work email address. And as I'm reviewing it, I can actually see what this is going to look like through email. I'm going to skip this step because it doesn't make sense for me to open up my email and show you just when I'm about to deliver this to you. But what I do want to show you is the full delivery of this. Now, this is a really small dispatch. When I was doing this at Symposium, when I was doing this at SUCCON, we had over 100. Symposium had almost 240 people live in a dispatch where I was doing this. 15 people, it's going to take seconds to dispatch. Not even that, maybe 1 second. So, as fast as the system will go. The delivery send message now, and I'm going to select this to render personalized content, and I'm going to send the message. And at this point, Sitecore EXM is queuing up all the contacts that are in this dispatch. It is sending delivery, and then it will be sent. And probably within about 30 seconds, this campaign is actually going to show that it's completely done. I'm just going to refresh the page here. It's on a 30-second timer. So you can see we have some sent progress, so it's in the process of sending. And so now it's done, sent progress is done. And this is going to say status is sent in just a very short amount of time. I'll do one more page refresh. You don't have to do the refreshes, but it refreshes on a 30-second timer. So just to kind of speed this along a little bit. So now we see the status is sent, and this message is now out in the wild and will be in your inboxes very shortly. Probably already have it now. We're going to click on the reporting for this message, and there's probably not going to be anything generated, but we're going to click on it. And it doesn't look like there is anything generated, so we're going to let this kind of go. So this really gives us kind of a very brief, and I realize that there's so much more I could sit here and really display for you, so much more that I can demonstrate. But this really gives you an idea of how all of the features of Sitecore, you got Sitecore EXM, Sitecore Forms, marketing automation, all these features are working in concert with each other to really drive a marketing experience. So this brings us back to our slides. So pretty amazing, right? Well, you might be asking yourself, okay, that's cool. How much customization did you have to do some of this stuff? Well, here's my configuration for this live demo. I'm using Sitecore 902, which is the most recent version of 9.0. You might remember that 9.1 was released probably about a week ago or two. It's using an XP1 topology. What that really means is I'm using multiple servers to send this. I have a content management server, I have a content delivery server, I have separate reporting and processing servers, and I also have a dedicated dispatch server. I'm also using Azure PaaS with the Azure search functionality. This is driving a whole experience in Azure PaaS. This is how you guys are able to get to it. And as far as custom code goes, I told you that I had this form submit action for identifying contacts. If you saw my talk on the Sitecore Virtual Developer Day back earlier this year, you saw that I actually demonstrated how to create this custom submit form action for identifying contacts and saving information that they give you into the contact profile. Secondly, I added some additional functionality to Sitecore to allow me to process the analytics tracking field on an item on data sources. I'm not going to get too much into this. It's a very small customization, but basically it allows me to take advantage of Sitecore's built-in tracking capability that is generally only reserved for just the initial page item when you click on a URL. And now what I'm doing is I'm actually firing and processing those analytics goals and tracking information on data source items. And the reason why I'm doing that is because of the content test that I had running on the magical sorting hat. The magical sorting hat web page, that content test allowed me to see which test, whether it was A, B, C, or D, which of the houses you were presented with, so that I could save that information and reuse it later on. Short of that, there is zero custom code that I built to build the functionality of the marketing automation and the email experience manager that you saw today. Aside from just the HTML and CSS, the branding that I put around there, all of this was using just the core platform with nothing major out of the box, or with nothing major outside of what's in the box. The emails that you were sent to you had all the HTML and CSS that I provided, and the automation plans brought to you by the Sitecore Marketing Automation Engine were all out of the box as well, and I just used the tools that came with the box to build the plan. And last but not least, as I said, the Sitecore forms with the one addition of my submit action. So with that, it's really been a pleasure talking with you all today. I'd also like to plug my current blog series going on right now called 25 Days of Sitecore EXM, where every day for the first 25 days of December, I am posting a blog about EXM. You can check that out at sitecorehacker.com for all the details. Otherwise, you can find me on Twitter at SitecoreHacker or on any of the Sitecore community outlets such as Sitecore Slack and Sitecore Stack Exchange. So with that, Jake, I think I'm going to turn it back over to you for some Q&A.
Absolutely, nice work, Pete. This is such a great demonstration, and I applaud the bravery of doing a live demo. It seems like the maybe your internet connection had slowed down a little bit there in the middle, but all's well that ends well.
Yeah, you know, it's when you're working with internet, you can never tell when it's going to slow down on you. But I always challenge the demo gods to give me the challenge.
So we have a few good questions here. One of them is with Sitecore's recent sort of partnership embrace of Salesforce, how does EXM play with Marketing Cloud? How does that all work?
Oh yeah, that's actually a really interesting question. I mean, I think everybody in the Sitecore space, developers and marketers alike, are really interested to kind of see what that partnership, what that relationship with Salesforce is going to look like. And I think it's important to realize that I think there's a spot where EXM can really be complementary to the mailing capabilities that are inside of the Salesforce Marketing Cloud. And here's an example. While EXM has this really great, powerful mass distribution capability where I literally can configure a implementation of EXM to send 4 million emails in a day or less, we're talking just a few hours, some people might have already built in marketing campaign functionality working off of their CRMs, much like in a Salesforce Marketing Cloud capacity. So they can still send these really flashy, nice, maybe not so personalized marketing campaigns out to a broad range of people. But where I see EXM really shining, that Marketing Cloud and some of these other big providers can't even touch or come close to, is that the personalized experience based off of information that we already know about somebody because of the Sitecore XDB and the Connective implementation. We know what this person has done on a website. And knowing that, we know who this person is. And so using the same system, we can actually build very personalized, very custom emails with using just one EXM message that I can send out to a broad range of people, and the system will automatically be able to figure out who they are, personalize the message to that person, and then continue on with the path. But more so, the interactions that they take with that email automatically get put into Connect, which means on the website, I can now do personalization rules on web pages based on what they were doing. Or in marketing automation, I can create automation based on what they're doing within those emails. So where I'm getting at with this is that transactional emails through marketing automation, through Sitecore forms, and through using the EXM client API, transactional emails are where I find EXM really shines and sets itself apart from some of the larger mass distributions, such like Salesforce Marketing Cloud. And that's not to diminish the mass distribution capabilities of EXM, but to me, that's where I really feel like where I feel like EXM differentiates itself.
Yeah, thanks. I mean, as a marketer myself, I can really see that sort of the when you're pairing up email messages with other online experiences, that this is where this gets very powerful. Um, Next question is EXM included with Sitecore from a licensing perspective?
Oh my gosh, licensing. Well, so first off, I want to say that, when it comes down to licensing, really just interface with your Sitecore technical account manager or your Sitecore account rep, because at the end of the day, as much as partners, as much as MVPs, as much as anybody who wants to try to help you and other clients, understand Sitecore licensing, it really is a relationship conversation between the client and Sitecore. That being said, EXM is native as part of the XP license, which means if you have the XP license, you have the ability to use EXM. There's a couple of caveats, though, is that while EXM is built into the system and you can use it, there's one feature of it is called distribution, or I say the actual delivery using an SMTP provider. You have to either bring your own SMTP services, whether maybe that's a SendGrid, maybe that's a SparkPost, maybe that's another service out there where you can create SMTP connections, or maybe you even have your own Exchange servers where you can send out the emails. The responsibility of EXM stops at the moment the email leaves the server, and it takes other services to actually send that email out into the wild. So that's what we call the custom SMTP provider, which is really just a bring your own provider. The second provider, and this is the provider that I think most everybody is starting to use, is called the Sitecore Email Cloud Delivery Service. And this is Sitecore's branded SMTP services for dispatching emails. And there is a subscription fee that is outside of just the standard licensing fee for Sitecore. That's based on the number of messages that you send out per month. So that would be another thing that you'd want to check in with your Sitecore sales rep, just to kind of get an understanding of what that subscription fee looks like. But there's a lot of pros and cons to both of those. And I would say the biggest pro in using the Sitecore Email Cloud, this isn't a sales pitch, is that one of the features within the provider that Sitecore provides for EXM is the ability to batch emails. And what I mean by that is EXM can prepare a communication that says, hey, I'm going to send out 1,000 emails at a time, or 10,000 emails at a time, or however many emails at a time. And it will make one communication out to Sitecore Email Delivery Cloud Service, and then from there, emails will get dispatched. So the latency is very much reduced, and you can actually send out emails faster. Using that's how we get to these very large 4 million emails in a couple hours, or 75 million emails in a month. That's how we can scale up that high. The SMTP provider still is a very viable option. That's actually what I'm using right now for this demo, but it sends one email at a time. So while I can send a whole bunch of emails at a time through SMTP, and I'm actually using SendGrid for this, there is a latency issue, so it can kind of slow down a little bit. So there's pros and cons, but I would definitely check in with your Sitecore account rep.
Understood. So I think that you may have answered the next question, which was, is there a limit to the number of emails you can dispatch at any given time? It sounds like the answer is it depends on how you set everything up on the back end.
Yeah, so it does depend, and when it comes down to the Sitecore implementation, there is a lot of stuff happening within Sitecore to generate an EXM message, and this is where the dedicated dispatch server comes into play. This is a new Sitecore role that Sitecore provided, and it really is the ability for Sitecore to scale at large. If you have one email dedicated delivery server, well, we can tweak that, we can configure it to send a lot of emails at a time. But if you're getting to a point where, hey, this email server is completely maxed out, we can't send any more emails, and that number is going to be very variable on a whole bunch of different variables. So I can't really give you a number, but the average that I would say you're really looking for is anywhere from about 250 to about 300 messages per second per dedicated dispatch server is really what you're aiming for. And so if one dedicated dispatch server doesn't do it for you, then you can add a second one. And if two doesn't do it for you, you can add a third one. So the scale, that's how you scale. In terms of just the number of messages, there is no limit outside of your subscription limit. If you go through the Sitecore email delivery cloud service and you can send 150 million emails in a month, when you hit 150 million emails, then you have to wait till the next month. Very similar to other SMTP providers as well. SendGrid generally has a limit on their services. SparkPost generally has a limit. So it depends on what your delivery mechanism limits you to.
Excellent, excellent. Okay, and we got, so I think that also leads into another question, which is, are we at risk for being blacklisted for using Sitecore EXM?
So, when you're talking about blacklisting, you're really talking about reputation management. This was one of the biggest issues with EXM in the early versions, especially in the 3.3 version of EXM, because they were using another provider. And that other provider wasn't really paying attention to reputation management. And so if you weren't using EXM correctly, which means, you weren't paying attention to unsubscribes, you weren't paying attention to people who were reporting abuse, if you weren't paying attention to bounced emails, all those little factors can actually cause an email delivery service or a domain to get blacklisted. And so what Sitecore did, this was kind of the evolution of how the Sitecore email delivery cloud service came into being, is Sitecore paid very close attention to the fact that they wanted their reputation to be managed correctly. They wanted clients' reputations to be managed correctly. And that's why the collaboration that Sitecore has by white labeling SparkPost is so impressive, actually. So what that means is that Sitecore is actually managing your reputation. It's managing your bounces. It's managing your unsubscribes. It has its own built-in suppression list. So if it starts to see that, hey, there's, maybe you're sending some emails to people you really shouldn't be, it's going to automatically start, suppressing those emails on the SparkPost side, so that the reputation management of the domain is not harmed. And I would say that's probably the biggest pro of using the Sitecore email delivery cloud service. If you're using the custom SMTP service, you have to manage that yourself. You have to manage the bounced emails. You're going to have to manage your unsubscribes and your suppression lists yourself. You could have services like SendGrid, which also have some of those external services for monitoring reputation, but you have to make sure you have to pay more of an active attention to it than you would if you're just using Sitecore email delivery cloud.
Excellent. And last question, are there any GDPR risks associated with using EXM?
Well, now I've captured everybody's marketing information, so I'm going to run away and no. So the real question is I think there's GDPR risks for everything that we do these days. It's not just within Email Experience Manager. It really boils down to the responsibility of the people who are using the product. XConnect, XConnect in full actually is part of Sitecore 9, has built-in capabilities for managing the right to be forgotten, or the managing consent. And when we're talking about GDPR, really these privacy laws, that's what we're talking about, is the ability to be forgotten, the ability to, I'm actually consenting to receive something, or hey, I am not consenting to receive something, which is just as important. And so the way that Sitecore handles it, which means the way that EXM handles it, is that when somebody says, I want to be forgotten per the GDPR laws, we anonymize that contact completely, but we don't get rid of the analytics. We just don't know who that person is. We know that a person was sent an email. We just don't know who they were. We have forgotten that person, but you don't lose any of your analytics as a part of that forgotten process. English.
Excellent. Well, that is all the questions we have, unless there are any more. So once again, Pete, thank you so much, and thank you for a great live demo and presentation. As a marketer here at Connective DX, I feel like I know more about how we use Sitecore. So to everyone else, thank you so much for joining us, and we'll be on the lookout for a follow-up email with a link to a recording of this presentation, and have a great day.
Great. Thanks, Jake, for having me, and pleasure seeing everybody. Happy holidays, and we'll see you in the after.